And we'll get started. So thank you so much for everyone joining our HDR Internships workshop this morning. My name is Susan Schlinker. I'm delighted to be here with you today to talk about the QT HDR Internship program. If you haven't entered your student ID into the chat box just yet, I'd invite you to do that now. And you're in for a real treat today. We've got my amazing colleague Ivy Chen here from the Graduate Research Education Development team. She'll be helping me along the way with putting information and links into the chat for you. And also we have one of our HDR Internship superstars, Komol, who has just completed an internship with the National Injury Insurance Scheme of Queensland. And I'll be inviting him to talk a little bit later about his experience undertaking that HDR internship. So just a little bit of Zoom housekeeping. I know that we're all pros at Zoom now, but I'd invite you to just keep your camera and your microphone off for the presentation component of the workshop. It just increases everyone's bandwidth so that they don't have any glitchy tech or anything watching the workshop. And also we have the chat available. So you're very welcome to put your questions into the chat as we go through. I can keep an eye on it, but we'll also have a Q&A session at the end that I can cover any questions that I haven't had a chance to get to throughout the workshop. And also, just to let you know, this session will be recorded. So if you prefer to keep your camera off, then you're very welcome to do that as well. And before we get started, I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners, the Turrbal and Yagara, as the First Nations owners of the lands where QUT now stands. We pay respects to their elders, laws, customs, and creation spirits, recognizing that these lands have always been places of teaching, research, and learning. And QUT acknowledges the important role Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people play both within the QUT community and beyond. And I would just like to pay my personal respects. If you are zooming in from anywhere other than Brisbane, Meanjin, I would like to extend my respects to the traditional owners of the lands where you're zooming in from today as well. Okay, so HDR internships, what are we going to cover today? We'll be talking about the benefits of HDR internships and obviously what a HDR internship is and how to go about securing one. As I mentioned, we're going to hear from our HDR internship superstar Komol about his experience at the National Injury Insurance Scheme of Queensland, which was a fabulously successful internship. And then I will talk about what's involved in a HDR internship and walk you through some preparation tips for both the HDR internship application and interview. I'll give you an overview of the training and support available, and then feel free to ask any questions at the end or pop them in the chat along the way. The question that I would really like to start the session with today, though, is for you to start with the end in mind. So thinking about when you turn off your Zoom camera and you walk away from your laptop later today, what would you like to get out of today's session? And if there's something that you have in mind that you would like covered that I don't have listed on the screen there, I just invite you to pop it into the chat now, because I'm very happy to customize my presentation to make sure that I cover all the information that you're wanting to get. So think about what you want to get out of it, and please let me know in the chat if it's not covered on the slide now. If you're not familiar with GRED, I'll just very quickly introduce you to the Graduate Research Education and Development team. So we are a central team within QUT. We have optional training and development programs, and really two main ambitions, which are to help HDRs complete their thesis, and that's more with our language and learning educators, and also to equip HDRs for life after their degree. So myself in industry engagement and my colleague Karen Carvu, who's the GRED careers educator, we sit very much on that second ambition. And you'll see very shortly in my presentation how undertaking a HDR internship can actually be really beneficial for equipping you for gaining employment in either academia or industry post-graduation. Before we get into the specifics of an internship, though, I would also really like to just give you this brief video from PhD candidate Sarah Dillon, who's in the Faculty of Business, about her HDR internship experience, just so that you have a little bit of a context of what an internship is before we get into the specifics. So I'll play the video now.
I'm Sarah Dillon, and my PhD research looks at international entrepreneurs and their emotions, and how the ways that they manage their emotions affects their decision making. And this is important because we know a lot of small businesses fail, and if we can help entrepreneurs make better decisions, we can help fewer businesses fail. So the internship was with QUT's Centre for the Digital Economy, and the project was sort of commercial consultancy type project for a government agency. And we were tasked with trying to understand how different stakeholders in Queensland dealt with and engaged with the digital economy. We had to speak to not-for-profits, community groups, volunteer-based organisations, businesses, big ones, small ones, manufacturing services, and really gain an understanding of how they were engaging with the digital economy and what they needed from the digital economy. There were 3 main reports. One of them sort of addressed some of the questions that we had been asked to look at directly, and I suppose was a lot more strategic. Another report looked at just some of the general feedback and concerns and trends that we could see emerging in the space based on our analysis of what other digital economies around the world were doing. And then there was another piece that looked at, more broadly, how do communities, how do people, how does society engage with government and with government guidance and regulations and the different tools that we have to help people. Part of what we really were tasked with was running these workshops that were co-designed with the government partner. In that way, part of our role really was to help the partner gain that taste themselves directly from these different stakeholder groups, so that our reports weren't just PDFs. We'd really helped the partner understand what was going on as a whole. I think professionally, I've definitely got a better understanding of where my PhD and the skills that I've acquired during the PhD, where that fits in the bigger picture of industry. But also more broadly, how research can inform business, how research can inform society, how research can really make a difference and, move some of the levers and make change in the ways that, we often want to see. Here I was, on the one hand, you're in sell yourself mode, when you do an interview. And then on the other hand, you're like, well, now I've got to do what I've just, said I can do. And matching up your behaviors and what you're delivering with what you've said you can, it can be a little bit intimidating. But then when you can do that, it feels incredible. Like, you really realize that what the PhD gives you, it's not just the piece of paper, it's so much more. And I think in that way, personally, it's helped me become the professional I wanted to become and the human I wanted to become by doing the PhD. And I don't think I would have seen that quite as tangibly if I hadn't done the internship. Having been through the whole internship process, I can wholeheartedly recommend other PhD students give this a go. Initially, I wasn't sure about doing an internship because I come to my PhD with a number of years of industry experience already. It sort of unlocked understanding that allowed me to make more of my PhD somehow. I would definitely recommend PhD students get in there and, have a look and make an internship for yourself happen. I'm Sarah.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that video, and I also hope that when we speak to Komol a little bit later about his HDR internship experience, that between Sarah's video and Komol's discussion, that you can really see how bespoke HDR internships are and how different and unique they are as well. They're all unique and they're all so interesting, and so it's a really great opportunity to find an internship project that is very well suited to you. But let's move on, and we'll start with what is industry. And I remember when I first started in this role and I had some students say, oh, industry, no, I don't want to work in manufacturing. I'm a researcher, which I thought was, an interesting understanding of the term industry. But industry actually refers to any potential end user of research, and that's including but not limited to businesses, governments, government business enterprises, not-for-profit groups and community organizations, private organizations. And so my question for you, and I would love for you to put this in the chat as well, is have you given any thought to a particular area of industry that you would like to gain an internship in? And if you have, or if you haven't, I can put you on the spot now. And please feel free to add into the chat if there is a type of organization or an area of industry that you're hoping to gain an internship in. I would really love to know. And the next question is why a HDR internship? And I think Sarah made a really good point in her video where she did come to her PhD with a number of years of industry experience already. And I remember talking to her before her internship, and she really was not sure if it was the right thing for her because she already had that industry experience. And what advice or suggestions that I gave to Sarah is that the internship, even if you do have existing industry experience, it's an opportunity to evidence your PhD and your research skills in industry. So obviously you wouldn't have gained your PhD or HDR research skills in previous industry experience, and now it's an opportunity to really demonstrate that. And I was at an industry event at the Centre for Data Science recently, and there were a number of industry partners who were on the panel, and they actually said that that is the number one thing that they look for in PhD or MPhil graduates who are then looking for employment in industry, is that they're able to evidence how they can use their skills in the real world, in industry, outside of academia. And one of the questions that they often ask in interviews is, okay, you've done this higher degree research degree, but how do we know that you can then implement your skill set in the real world? And so the HDR internship is just a fabulous way that you can be able to do that. You've then got that evidence that you can demonstrate on your CV, on your LinkedIn profile forever. And it's something that you can refer to in interviews and will really wow your interview panel that you are able to demonstrate it. So that's my overall advice as to why undertake a HDR internship. But they really are important irrespective of your intended career path, because they can help to develop research articulation skills, obviously industry experience and skills, research impact metrics, practical application of your skills in the real world, and as I mentioned, evidence your skills on your CV. And they're also a fabulous opportunity to build connections as well. And those connections can help serve you again later in finding employment post-graduation. And one question I would love to ask you at this point as well is, what sectors could you use your research skills to work in after graduation? Is that something that you've given thought to? One thing I find with students who undertake HDR internships is that in one way or another, they'll often end the internship and say, wow, I thought I was in this one niche area, and now after doing the internship, my perspective has broadened and I can see so many different industries and sectors that my research skills are now applicable to. We had one student who ended up using biomedical skills in the food environment, because she was looking at antimicrobial coatings for flooring. And so in her PhD, she was looking at coatings in dental fillings and that sort of thing. But she was able to translate that knowledge into coatings for flooring for food production safety standards. So there's a number of ways that your skills can translate. and to broaden your perspective and to broaden your opportunities is, I think, a really great gift that you can give yourself. And in addition to that, another reason to undertake a HDR internship is that 60% of PhD graduates will actually find work outside academia after graduation. So there's this quote on the screen from the Australian Council of Learned Academics. And I know it's a quote from 2016, but I have to say that this is still a very preeminent report. And there's not been another one that's really surpassed it since. But it says a HDR training must not be seen as an academic apprenticeship, but as a highest level of university education, the outcomes of which can be applied across a range of different careers. And I think this is just what I've been saying, that your skills that you get as a HDR student that you develop, they're so widely applicable, both obviously to academia, but then also to a range of different industries afterwards. So being able to prepare yourself mentally that your post-graduation employment might be in academia or it might be in industry, and then preparing yourself by really diversifying your portfolio of opportunities for yourself is really going to put you in a great position to be able to find employment after you graduate. And I wanted to include this graph because I think it's actually really interesting. So figure 1 reveals the impact of the pandemic and the recovery on advertisements for academic positions within the higher education sector. So you can see in 2019, there was a monthly average of about 1,000 academic jobs advertised. And by December 2021, post-pandemic, this number had reduced to 800 positions per month. And then conversely, Figure 2 shows a monthly average of 15,000 non-academic job advertisements in 2019. And after the peaks and troughs of the pandemic, this average pretty much remains the same at the end of 2021. So setting aside the differences of monthly averages, these two graphs also demonstrate that there's a much greater demand for non-academic research jobs. So we highly encourage you to broaden your field of vision to consider positions both in academia and in industry post-graduation. And so using your time as a student to engage with industry, undertake a HDR internship will really be able to set you up well so that you can demonstrate your research skills in the real world when you approach industry for employment opportunities post-graduation. So that's a little bit about why, and now I would love to go into what a HDR internship is. So it's a short-term and clearly defined project that's with or for industry. The project agreements, they all come through GRED, through the industry engagement team, which is myself and also my colleague Simon. So it's a project between you as a HDR student, your academic mentor, and an industry partner. And I'll speak a little bit later about what an academic mentor is and who that can be for you. So it's a separate project from your thesis research, but ideally it would be great if the internship is relevant to your research topic in some way. But this can be quite broad, say perhaps in the development of general research and HDR skills. So the industry partner, they own the IP of your internship project, and the project could be standalone project with an industry partner, or it could be part of a larger research collaboration grant. So I know that in the Faculty of Engineering, we have some students who are working on internships that are part of larger grants with transport and main roads. And so there's a couple of different ways, I guess, that you can undertake an internship, either standalone or part of a larger research collaboration. So the internship, it can be 3 to 6 months in length, and that's really decided by the industry partner, depending on the project and the needs of the project that they have in mind. And you'll notice that when we advertise HDR internships, it will often say the length of the internship, whether it's 3, 4, 5, or 6 months. During the internship, you're undertaking the internship project full time. So we pause the student's candidature, and then your milestones are moved back by the duration of the internship when you finish the internship project. So if your internship is 3 months long, then your milestones get moved back by 3 months as well when you've completed the internship. You are enrolled in IFN 004. Feel free to have a look up of that on the QT Digital Workplace. It's the unit, the HDR Internship Shell unit, that I am a unit coordinator for. So you're enrolled in that unit, which means that it keeps your enrollment at QT active. You don't need to take a leave of absence or anything like that. And also your scholarship is paused, but the industry partner provides funding for the duration of the internship. So normally our base rate is $10,000 for a 3-month internship that the industry partner provides to QT. And then QT provides $9,000 of that to the student as fortnightly stipends throughout the internship. And then $1,000 of that goes to the academic mentor in recognition of their support of you throughout their project. And you can see we've got a table on the slide on when you can participate in a HDR internship. So what you'll notice for all of the different degree types is that you need to have completed 6 months full-time equivalent study. And then for IF 49 students also need to successfully complete stage 2. For IF 80 and KK 59 students, completing your research project proposal, and for ED 11, also completing your work in progress doc. But when you submit an application, we do the internship eligibility checks for you, but that's just something to keep in mind. And QT also really prefers students to undertake an internship. You don't have to, but they prefer if you can undertake an internship within the first 18 months of your HDR degree. And that's because we find that the experience can really actually help you to then complete your MPhil or your PhD. And also it helps you build networks and connections and to start evidencing your skills on your CV really, really early on. Students can do one internship during candidature, and then if you're really keen, you can also do a second one under examination at the end of your degree. So I mentioned the HDR Internship Academic Mentor, and this can be either your supervisor or it could be another QT academic staff member who has relevant expertise to the internship project. So a lot of students, I'll just make mention, actually take the opportunity to work with a different QT academic member of staff, because that in itself is a really great networking experience. It exposes you to that academics network, and it's a really great opportunity to start forging some other connections. But it absolutely can be your supervisor if you would prefer, and if they have the relevant expertise for the project. And also, we have had a number of situations where students have required 2 different academic mentors, and that's because of the breadth of scope of the internship project. So, for example, we had a student complete an internship recently looking at astronaut space gloves, and he was looking at improving the dexterity of astronaut space gloves. And so he had 2 academic mentors, one from fashion who was helping with materials and who was helping with gluing and sewing techniques, and then also another academic from the Center of Materials Science who was able to help with heat resistance and that side of it. So if there is an internship project that does require you to have 2 different mentors, that's something that we can absolutely assist you with as well. And then how to secure an internship. So there's really 2 main ways that you can secure a HDR internship. You'll see that we have HDR internship opportunities that we advertise on our HiQ page. These are through our own QT HDR internship program, but we also work with a third-party provider called HDR Intern. And so we promote their internship opportunities as well. But then we may also advertise some external programs such as the Nicolas Baudin program in France, STEM policy graduate internship program, or Parliamentary Library of Australia Summer Research Program. We've advertised them before. So that's the type of thing that you can expect to see on the HiQ page for HDR internships at QT. The second option is you can self-source an internship. So this is where you would identify a potential internship partner from your contacts or your network of contacts or your supervisor's network. Then you would establish a relationship with them and then pitch the internship with them by providing the industry partner with our external website and our program flyer, and they're things that I can absolutely supply you with. And then once you've got the industry partner on board, you can contact GRED to help you then formalize the internship agreement and to step you through the, we call it the internship pipeline of the different stages that we need to get you through to be able to commence your internship. So I'll talk a little bit later about self-sourcing because we run a whole other workshop on that, which obviously I go into a lot more detail about stepping down, breaking down each of those individual steps. So I'll talk a little bit more about self-sourcing later, but that's good context for you to know that they're the two main ways that you can source an internship. So this is the pipeline that I just mentioned. Just wanted to give you a very quick overview in what's involved in a HDR internship. So this is this is a map if you're applying for a HDR internship opportunity that's listed on the HiQ page. You would apply for it. We then do the internship eligibility check, which I mentioned before is about that you've completed the 6 months full-time equivalent and the other requirements for your specific degree. Then you have an interview with the industry partner and work with me or my colleague Simon to participate in finalizing your internship agreement. We then send you some internship pre-requirements to complete online. They take about an hour, and then you commence the internship. During the internship project, you also have your mid and your final internship presentations, and these are done by Zoom. They take somewhere between half an hour and an hour, getting myself, your industry partner, your academic mentor or mentors together and bringing them up to speed on where you're at in your project. There's a couple of post-internship requirements to complete after the internship, and we ask you to complete a post-internship survey, and then you receive your HDR internship certificate, which is signed by the Senior Deputy Vice Chancellor, Professor Christopher Barner-Kowalik. And that's something that you're able to keep in your CV. You can share it on LinkedIn, and that's how you can evidence your internship. So that's a little overview of how to apply and what to expect when you apply for a HDR internship online. And then you'll notice that for self-sourcing an internship, most of the steps are similar, except for the first 3 steps, which are highlighted in yellow. And that's where instead of applying, you would identify a potential industry partner and then form a relationship with them and then pitch the internship to them before reaching out to GRED and participating in finalizing the internship agreement, and the rest of the steps continue just like applying online. So that's a little bit of an overview of what to expect. And myself and Simon, we are here to guide you through every step of the way. You'll be hearing from Kamal shortly, and he's going to talk a little bit about that pre-internship process and working with GRED, as well as his experience. And so you'll hear that we're really here for you, and you don't have to worry about making sure you hit all of these steps, because we guide you through every step of the way. So I mentioned self-sourcing a HDR internship, and I just wanted to mention that the next training session that we have for self-sourcing a HDR internship is on the 6th of December. If that's a little too late in the year and you want to chat to myself or Simon about self-sourcing an internship a little earlier than that, I'll provide you with our email address at the end, and you're very welcome to email us. We can set up a meeting and have a chat with you as well. But really that workshop is excellent, I have to say. And it's available on the GRED Blackboard website as well if you would like to watch a previous edition of that workshop. But it really does spell out how to build a relationship with your potential industry partner, how to even start networking, to be able to come up with a list of potential industry partners. And then we provide you with all of the website and the program flyer and everything that you need to be able to pitch it as well. So it's a really great session, and I invite you to join us for that on the 6th of December. And we also have some information online as well, which helps to walk you through how to self-source an internship. So you're very welcome to have a look at the online information, and also head to the GRED Blackboard website, because as I mentioned, the previous editions of the self-sourcing HDR internship workshop are available. And one thing that I would just say, I think most students, when we talk about self-sourcing an internship, probably the most common question that I hear is, but Susan, I don't know anyone. How am I meant to use my existing network if I feel like I don't have one? And so I would recommend that if you're sitting there having those similar thoughts and feeling like you're in that same position, QUT has a range of amazing resources available to help you get networking. These are just a few screenshots of some modules that are available online. Ivy's just put the link to them in the chat, and I really recommend checking them out and start networking as early as possible in your degree, because those connections, you just never know where they might lead. I used to work in finance, and I still have people offering me jobs in finance, even though I'm 5 years at QUT. So you know, if you network early and you keep your network alive, and visit the network often by connecting often, then you just never know what opportunities might come from that. So this is a really great place to start if you need help networking. And I mentioned the internship presentations, which are conducted virtually. So the mid is about halfway through, and then the final is at the end. And this is really based on real world research consulting, where if you were a research consultant, you would be expected to give regular updates on where you are, the challenges and successes that you've had, any handover that might be required. And so it really is based on real world experience, and it's a great experience for you to be able to get everyone together and update them on the success of your project so far. And then this is the completion certificate that I mentioned that we issue to you once you have completed your post-internship requirements, recognizing your efforts and really celebrating the success of your internship. And that's something that you can share on LinkedIn. We really encourage you to do that, and also have in your CV. Okay, that's a lot of information for you. I know it's a very big overview of what to expect and the different steps throughout a HDR internship. But now I would really like to warmly invite Komol to turn his camera and mic on and to talk about his HDR internship experience, which was such a successful project at the National Injury Insurance Scheme of Queensland. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. There we go. And we've got you full screen. Komol, over to you.
Thank you. I'm Md Mostafizur Komol. Hope you are doing well. I'm a PhD student at QUT Center for Robotics, and also jointly with CSIRO Data 61. So my research area is robotics, AI, and also machine learning. So recently I have completed a HDR internship with National Injury Insurance Scheme Queensland, and also Motor Accident Insurance Commission, MAIS, jointly. So it's a, I think, to me, it's a good experience, understanding about industry engagement and how to collaborate with industry people and partner. And at the same time, how can I develop my skills related to my PhD and also about industry and solve real world problem. So what's the benefit of internship? That's the basic question, like, why should I do an internship? So when we discuss about this question, the first thing that comes to our mind, it comes to everyone's mind, like, why do we need to do internship? We need a job. That's why maybe we need to do internship. But to me, I mean, like, having a job only, and if we want to focus on internship just for a job, I think we are limiting ourselves. It's like we are like choosing something, or we are being ended up with something without understanding our potentials. So if you want to be an entrepreneur, an internship may also give you the necessary skills to be an entrepreneur too. So it's not like only just getting a job or making good relation. Yes, internship is the right opportunity to make good relations and understand, build up communication skills and develop industry engagement skills. And in future, it is not only just getting a good job, but also understanding the whole environment of job experience and job area, job professionals. But how can we also use that skills to be an entrepreneur too? Because this is also important for our life, to understand our different goals in future. So I will discuss it later, but first I want to start with the motivation of my internship. So I will go to a bit of history or background before that. So before I start my PhD in this February, I completed my master's degree with QUT and in Center for CARSQ, and jointly with Department of Transport at Main Road. So after I finished my master's, I was planning to have a job at the initial stage. At the same time, I was planning to have a PhD. So PhD is something, it's not like I want to randomly choose a PhD program. PhD program is also, it must be related to my interest. So I was looking for PhD program. I was thinking, if I get a PhD that I really like to do, then I will choose. Or maybe I will end up with a job. So I also need an internship. So at the beginning, after I finished my master's, I tried an internship position through HDR Internship. It was Queensland Gallery of Art, Coacoloma, and I presented my my skills and everything in the interview. And I think I presented successfully in the interview, and Susan was also there. But finally, I ended up being the second position. And it is quite common because it was my first interview for internship position. So we cannot just give up with that. So I keep continuing, like searching for different positions and jobs at the same time, interviews for internship. And later I didn't find any internship position. I ended up getting 2 research officer position. And then later I started my PhD program, not starting with job, because I find like I'm interested in my PhD program and I find it is interesting. So after I start my PhD program, I find another internship position which is available. And then this time it was with NISQ and MACE, I mean National Engineering Scheme and MACE, and it was also on machine learning, which is related to my field. And this time I tried and it really worked. So I got the position for internship, and it was for 3 months, and it started I think around last June, I think. So I will say about the interview experience based on my experience of 2 interviews with internship. first internship, I had a lacking. I could understand that I discussed too much about the technical terms. So I think it is not always bad. It is also important to share my skills on technical terms, but also at the same time, because in internship board, there are different level of expertise people there. So we need to discuss many things in a very high level instead of a very lower level in detail. So that is one thing. Another thing is like in the second internship, I could understand that we also need to create an environment that the manager or the people who are trying to hire us, they will feel really comfortable to hire us. They will feel like, okay, this person not only can do the job, but also this person is very easy to communicate with, very easy to share information, and at the same time, like very easy to do the job with him, very comfortable with. So that is one good technique to how to beat the interview. And then after I start my internship, and then I want to discuss about the challenges first in short. So there are many challenges in my internship. Of course, it is quite common internship in 3 months. In 3 months, it is quite short time to solve a problem, and especially with very technical things like machine learning. So for me, of course, it was quite challenging. Initially, first challenge I find is like understanding the problem. So an industry has many problems in a broad sense, and not everyone in the industry may be expert on your own domain or on my own domain, like, because that's the reason they hired me. So they will try to explain things in one way, but I need to understand that things in my way, actually. So it's like understanding the problem, because I'm trying to solve something based on machine learning. So when we discuss about the problems of the NISQ and maze, I needed to understand how that problem can be related to my machine learning technique, and how can I feed that information in the machine learning technique methodology, and how can I get the output in a way which is what they want, which is what the company want. So that was one good challenge for me, and I could overcome it very fast, I will say. Everyone was happy about that. And second thing is about the mind map, how can I solve the problem in this 3 months. So that is another big challenge, I will say, for the students who are trying to get an internship. They initially, after joining the internship, they should think about that, because if we just ended up getting too many things, and if we don't make the mind map from the beginning, that if I can complete that complete the task in 3 months or not, then it will be really difficult. At the end, I think no one will be satisfied. I mean, it's not like anyone will be satisfied. They will understand. But I mean, to be successful and everyone happy, we need to understand like how much task we can do in 3 months, and so that we can make our commitment in a way like, yes, this can be done in 3 months, and so that everyone gets happy when it is done in 3 months. So creating the mind map, like this specific task I can do in 3 months, and I need to know when I need to finish it, because there involve many research and innovation at the same time to solve a task. And other things is like a lot of uncertainties. When we start a task to solve in 3 months, say my expertise in machine learning, but when I'm solving with NISQ and maze, I'm working with business participant data. So to understand the data set, I needed to understand about business and how business participants communicate, and how these things are considered, and how these ethics and rules for considering this data set and their informations and their talkings, and how they are categorized. These things needed to understand. So it's not only the machine learning, but also I needed to understand the business issues, also about health. So when we learn about 2 different domains, we need expertise, and we also need to go to people of different expertise to learn. So that is one good point. At the same time, I want to say about the thing I said about the entrepreneur. If we want to be an entrepreneur, we also need to know the overall point of view, how a company works. So that's why I say, like, when we are going to do an internship, I can simply sit in my desk and do my job. That is one way I can finish my task because of my technical expertise. Or the task is actually related to all the domains I need to know. A company have different domains. Say one is support planners who are dealing with the business participant. One is data expert team who deals with the data, who deals with the Amazon AWS and this type of things. One is with ICT teams who deals with computer problems or any network issues. And maybe there is also machine learning or AI related teams. So there are many different teams, and the problems I'm going to solve, of course, the part of problem, it needs my expertise. So I can sit in my desk and I will ask to the different teams, like, give me this, give me this, give me this type of information, and I will solve based on my expertise. Or I can go to all of these teams, communicate with all of them very politely, and I will also develop a very good communication skills with them. And also I will understand when I communicate with them that how each of the team is working. So when I understand how each of the team working, and I also get what I want from them, and at the same time, I will have a broad understanding how the whole company is working. So this is the point what a manager needs. This is the thing, this is skills, how a whole company works. This is the skills what a chief need to run a company, because a chief of the company, he deals with the, say, for example, the government, he deals with the politics, and he also make the company shape the company in a way, communicate with the whole different team of the company, and run the company in a way so that it is helpful to the government or the outside organizations as well. So that's why I say, like, the way we do the internship, it is also not only just getting a job and sitting my desk and understanding my task and developing my technical task, but also it is helpful to develop communication skill, at the same time get a broader link with everyone, and also understand in a high level view of the all domain of task in the company, all the teams. And in future, if I want to be an entrepreneur, if I think like I will just open a big company, maybe I will need similar type of team who will be doing that specific level of task. And then I need to know, like, how to interact with the outside environment, so that the task I do, the output I get, how can I sell that output in the real world problem. So that is one thing, like I wanted to say, like, it is also a challenging thing to understand all of these things. And other than that, I will say internship is like very helpful, like to broaden our connections. Say, for example, after I finish my internship, the model I created using machine learning was very successful. I think around the accuracy was more than 90%, and it is suitable for real problem solving and to use in industry level, because there is some difference between academia research and industry situations. In academia, we focus much on the innovations, how to innovate like something never done before. To innovate something, we spend a lot of time. Actually, it takes a lot of time to innovate something. And sometimes we get something innovative, and sometimes we don't get something innovative, but we focus on the methodology. But this is how we did. Maybe we get something innovative, maybe we didn't get, but this is our methodology. This is Nobel methodology, and we need our justification behind that. This is what we do in academia. But industry, it is quite different, because our time is limited. At the same time, we need to find a trade-off, like not always the innovation, but also maybe some existing methodology we can use and get some good result. If we get 100% good result, or something we can sell, that is fine. Or if we don't get a better result, then we also need to focus on the innovations. So how much time we have to do that innovations? So we also need to consider these things, because our time is limited very much in industry situations. And we also need to make a product which is quite accurate to sell in real world. So how much accurate we get, it is also very important industry level. And we also need to consider very wide range of product or wide range of data, for example, in industry level. And other than that, I think, say after I successfully completed my internship, I'm happy to say I ended up having a very good relation with my colleagues, my supervisors in National Insurance Scheme and Motor Accident Insurance Commission. And they're very happy, and they also gave me a recommendation letter as well. And yeah, I frequently also communicate with them, and I also make my relation with them so that I increase my broader communications, I increase my link, and so that they also have a well wish about me. Also, I have good concern, like I enjoyed a very healthy work environment there. Thank you. That was my opinion and viewpoints about HDR internship. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much. That was an amazing overview. And I think that you raised just so many fantastic points about how, you know, you can interview for an internship and maybe it doesn't work out and then keep going. And then also just that eagle eye perspective that you really, you know, went in and went above and beyond to communicate with all the teams and really understand their needs so that you could tailor your tasks and be able to complete the project to a really high level of satisfaction. And Komol and I were, you know, just speaking before the workshop began, and the industry partners were just so thrilled with you as a person, but also your expertise and the outcomes that you developed for the project. So I think that your point that you made to students is so correct about yes, having the technical expertise, but being the right fit as well, and making the company feel comfortable to, you know, take you on as an intern. And Komol got such beautiful feedback saying that he was such a popular presence in the office. And I know in our final internship presentation, they were like, we don't want him to go, we're going to miss him. And it was just such a successful outcome for the project all round. So thank you so much for that overview. I think that was really great. And I hope that the other students in this workshop really found some value in that. And I certainly think there were lots of golden nuggets of information to take away from that. And if you don't mind, Komol, we might just ask you to hang around till the end of the workshop in case students have any questions for you.
Anytime, just feel free to let me know if you have any questions. Yeah.
Great. All right. Thank you. So I'm going to share my screen again. Hopefully you can see the slides now. And we'll move on to the second half of the workshop, which is about preparing and how to apply. So you really heard Komol in his overview say that he really treated the internship application like a job application. And I truly think that's the best mindset to approach it with. So we have in GRED put together some amazing resources for you called Nailing Your HDR Internship Application. It's both a PDF guide and a video, and Ivy has just put the link into the chat about where you can find those resources. And I really, really recommend that you consult them before you submit any HDR internship application. We really want you to be successful in your application. And so we want to give you the best running start to do that. So consulting this will be really helpful. And then interviewing for an advertised internship. So you heard Komol say that he interviewed with Quite Goma, and then he interviewed for a second internship with the National Injury Insurance Scheme of Queensland. And so for the interview, the industry partner, they shortlist students based on their application. So your application is the first step, and then you may get shortlisted to participate in an interview with the industry partner. Normally, these are conducted online. Occasionally, if the industry partner is in Brisbane, they might ask you to come in person, but normally they're done online. So I mentioned our GRED careers educator earlier in the workshop, Karen Carvu, and she hosts a session called Interview Strategies. Now that happens in August every year. So it's already happened for 2022, but the resources are still available on the GRED Blackboard site. And Ivy has just very kindly put the link to those resources in. So I would really recommend that you have a look at some interview resources before you undertake an interview with a prospective industry partner. Here are my basic internship interview skills and top tips that I would recommend. And this is based on, so normally the industry partners ask myself or Simon to sit in on the interviews, only because sometimes when we're not there in any sort of judging capacity or assessing capacity, but sometimes students just have questions about the HDR internship program that obviously the industry partner isn't able to answer. So we often sit in on the interviews. So I've been in lots and lots of interviews, and these are my top tips based on my own experience of seeing interviews that I would recommend to you. Please join the Zoom early, at least a couple of minutes beforehand. Get yourself settled and mentally prepared for the interview. And make sure that you have adequate lighting for your Zoom interview. People will like you more if they can see you. So make sure it's lit well. And also to organize to be in a quiet location. It's really difficult to understand your responses or to build rapport with you if it's an incredibly noisy background and it's really distracting. And also it feels a little disrespectful to the industry partner as well. I'd recommend that you wear professional clothing, at least from the waist up. If your interview is on Zoom, you can have your board shorts or your pajama pants on the bottom, but definitely have a professional clothing from the waist up, because that also makes a good impression and shows respect to the industry partner as well. Body language on Zoom. So things like having a good posture, hand gestures and smiling is also another really great way to build rapport. Hopefully I've been demonstrating a good example of that in this workshop by using my hands a lot. And interestingly, it goes back to many hundreds and hundreds of years ago that people feel more comfortable if they can see your hands. So apparently it's an evolutionary thing to, you know, make sure that there's no hidden weapons or anything, but actually using hand gestures is a really great way to build rapport and to make your industry partner audience feel comfortable with you, and to smile as well. I think smiling really conveys confidence in your area of expertise, and it helps to build that rapport and make connections as well. Speak up and give concise answers. Now, Komol actually mentioned this in his discussion as well, where he felt that in his first interview, perhaps he used a few too many technical terms that perhaps the industry partner didn't have the same level of expertise and, you know, could really understand with. So I think giving concise answers, but making sure that your communication is on a level that the industry partner will understand is really essential. And if the industry partner doesn't have a PhD, it doesn't mean that they're stupid or they need to be patronized in any way, but it just means that it's up to us to be able to tailor our communication, because smart and curious people just can't engage with you unless they understand what you're saying. So being able to tailor your communication, and then Komol mentioned that he took those communication skills forward and was able to liaise with different teams successfully when he was in the internship, and that only helped increase the outcome of his internship project as well. And to be confident, one thing that I really see in HDR students is a lack of confidence and perhaps this is something you can relate to or maybe not, but a lot of HDR students almost feel this sort of imposter syndrome of, oh, I'm not sure if I'm good enough. I'm not sure if my project is good enough. I'm not sure if this is this. Believe me, I've been in so many interviews, and my general advice is, in general, HDR students sell themselves short. So don't be afraid to go in and say, this is what I'm capable of. These are the skills that I have. And these skills are going to help you get the outcomes that you want in this, and this way. So always being able to bring it back to the outcomes of the internship project, and the needs of the industry partner will also give you a lot of extra points in an internship interview as well. So Karen Carvu, our careers educator, has also put together her top tips for non-verbal communication for video interviews. Some of these I've already gone through already, and I will be sharing the PowerPoint slides with you afterwards. So I'd say when you receive the slides, have a look through and familiarize yourselves with them, so that you can really walk into your interview in the best way possible and put your best foot forward, so to speak. And this is what I just touched on before, knowing what the industry partner wants. So this is really the key to having a successful internship interview. And how do you know what they want? Well, you can look carefully at the advertised internship opportunity and make notes on what they're looking for. And also learning the language that the industry partner has used to describe the competencies that they look for in internship applications. So Kamal was saying that they were looking for machine learning and data labeling. And so he was able to use those terms when he was in his interview. And that just helps the industry partner realize that, okay, this student is on board with what they want, with what we want from the internship project. They have a good understanding of it. So that will really help. And you can use what's called the STAR method: situation, task, action, and result. So this is where they might ask you a question. Can you give us an example of a time when you have whatever? And then it's up to you to respond using this STAR method of, okay, well, this was the situation. This was the task I was tasked with. This is the action that I took. And then this is the end result. So using that method in framing your responses to internship interview questions will really help as well. Now, there's a link on the screen, and Ivy's just put it in the chat as well, for a QUT Big Interview. I have to say, this is an amazing resource. If you don't have a lot of interview experience, or if you haven't interviewed for a while, because you do get rusty, I would really recommend going to QUT Big Interview and doing some interview practice before you undertake an internship interview. And this is free for all QUT students. So even if you're not going for an internship and say perhaps you're going for a job application, feel free to use it. It's a really great resource, so I highly recommend. And then just to refine and improve as you go. So Kamal mentioned that he interviewed first for the internship at Quagoma, was unsuccessful in that, although he was very, very close. And then he was able to critically reflect on how he could improve and use that critical reflection in his next interview with NISQ, and then he was successful in gaining that internship. And knowing what you have that's relevant. This is the last piece of the puzzle for a successful internship interview. What I found in the past is that when you're in an interview, it can be a slightly stressful or anxiety-inducing situation, depending on your mindset and how you see the opportunity. But one thing I've noticed is that for students, their research area is really their comfort zone. And so often they can go into an interview and spend just far too much time talking about their research topic for their higher degree. And really, the industry partner wants to know what you have that's relevant to them. So even though your research topic, I'm sure, is wildly fascinating and they would love to know more, what they're really looking for is what we've got on the screen here. What are your relevant skills to the internship project? What's your relevant education? And you can even look back on previous unit outlines, perhaps from undergraduate, or if you've done a master's program, that might just have some useful language or framing that you can use in the interview to summarize your education. Any relevant employment experience. Now, this is the highly relevant. So Komol, who interviewed for the AI internship at Queensland, the only reason that he came in second place was because the student that got selected for that opportunity had previously worked in an art gallery in his home country. And so that's highly relevant for that particular industry partner to know that, because they then felt comfortable that he would understand what their goals are and understand the art gallery environment. Then your research topic, and then also to prepare for the interview by making a short list of examples. So going back to that STAR method: situation, task, action, result, having a think about, okay, so, you know, if they're going to ask me, say they've got some competencies listed in the internship advert, and you think, okay, well, they might ask me about my machine learning experience, or they might ask me about my communication skills, or they might ask me about, you know, and to prepare a few examples before you go into the interview, so that you're not sitting there going, yeah, I know I'm a great communicator, but I just can't think of a time when I've done it well. Have those examples ready and to go on hand, and just make a few dot points. So that's this slide is a really great overview of how to nail an internship interview. And my last piece of advice is, if you're not sure of what your strengths are, there are lots of character strength surveys that you can do to understand what your strengths are, so that you can really sell yourself in the internship interview. So this is one that we find particularly good. We don't get any benefits from recommending it, but it's just one in GRED that we found is actually quite useful to know your character strengths. And so if you're sitting there thinking, oh, I don't know what I'm good at. I don't know if I can communicate well, or I can be a team player, or I work well autonomously. Having something like this to help you understand yourself is actually really useful before you go into an interview. I'd recommend that you do that. And then also there are these fabulous ASIN modules that are free and available for all QT students that can help you prepare for your interview and also for your internship. So these are just a few that you can see on the screen: preparing for your work integrated learning experience, succeeding in your work integrated learning activity, understanding Australian workplace cultures, and understanding work integrated learning in an online environment. I really can't speak highly enough of these modules. I think that even if you've been in the work environment previously, things change all the time. And so it's a really great way to be able to refresh yourself before you go into that environment. And as Komol said, the academic environment is very different to the industry environment. And a lot of students notice the pace is very different. And so doing a couple of little modules before you go will really help you set yourself up well. And there's one module in particular, if you are an international student, or if you are a student who has come straight from high school through your undergraduate and now you're doing your higher degree research, and perhaps you haven't had a lot of workplace experience, then understanding workplace cultures, I would highly recommend that you have a look at this module. As Komol said, it's not just about being able to demonstrate your technical expertise, but it's about being able to have the industry partner feel comfortable to take you on as a person. And this is why we do interviews, so that we can get a sense of how that person will fit in to the broader workplace culture and how they will interact with other teams as well. So if you're going to do any module from the ASIM modules, I would recommend starting here. Okay, so that's a lot of information on tips and tricks, how to prepare for the application and the interview. And if you're sitting there thinking, wow, Susan, that's just a lot of information, where do I even start? I've put it on a silver platter for you. So I would recommend reading through the HDR internships page on HiQ to understand what the HDR internship experience is about, and then to submit your registration to the HDR Industry Engagement Program. This will actually really help us. So occasionally we have internships that come through that the industry partner needs an intern really, really quickly, and we don't have the opportunity to advertise them. And what we do is look through the students who have registered for the HDR Industry Engagement Program to see if we've got any good fits. So if you can please submit your registration, that would be great. And then also start a conversation with your supervisor. Let them know, hey, I've just attended this workshop. I'm really interested in doing an internship at some stage during my degree. I can apply for ones online, or I can self-source. Can we start a conversation about your network, and if you have any contacts with industry partners that I could potentially undertake an internship with? That would be a great way to start a conversation with your supervisor. If you are interested in self-sourcing your own internship, I highly recommend coming along to the Self-Sourcing HDR Internship Workshop, and then keep up to date with the GRED emails. We send out our internship emails every Tuesday. That's where our internship opportunities open for application are advertised. Apply for internships, as Kamal said. You may not get your first one, but all experience is good experience. I strongly believe that there is no failure, there's only feedback. And if you're able to take that mindset with you into your applications and your interviews, then you'll only get stronger each time you go forward. And practice your interview skills on Big Interview, especially if you haven't interviewed for a while. This is the HDR Industry Engagement Registration Form that I mentioned. And as I said, it will help us to be able to match you if we have any internships come through that we just don't have time to advertise. And it also triggers an email to start a conversation with your supervisor. So that's one thing you can tick off the list. These are just examples of the GRED newsletters. So the orange newsletter that you can see on the right, it's sent weekly on a Tuesday. That's got our HDR internship opportunities that you can apply for, but then also the HDR Matters email on that's sent weekly on a Monday. Have a look out for that, because that's when we have our industry engagement workshops. But also I would really recommend having a look out for careers workshops. As you've seen today, there's the interview strategies that our careers educator does that's highly relevant to internships. So have a look out for any other offerings through GRED that could be useful for you. This is where you can apply on the HiQ page to applications that are open. And then sessions that we have coming up. So the self-sourcing and internship session is happening on Tuesday, the 6th of December, and I'm running this session again on Wednesday, the 7th of December. I would highly recommend that you come along to the one on the 6th, or as I said, feel free, if that's too far away and you're super keen to start self-sourcing, you're very welcome to email me and we can organize to make a time and meet earlier so that you are all prepared to start self-sourcing your own internship. Now, before we move into the Q&A component of this workshop, I would really invite you to complete the survey for this workshop, please. It's quick, it's anonymous, it's going to help us make these workshops even better. Ivy's just put the link into the chat. I would love if you could please take a minute to complete that now. And while you're doing that, let me also tell you about another component of GRED, which is the eGrad School. So all of the enrollments into eGrad School are free for QUT students. And it's amazing. There are so many different modules that you can enroll in, and some of them are really, really helpful for HDR internships, particularly the project management module. And as Komol said, being able to mind map and manage your time and know that you can complete your project within the internship timeframe is essential. So project management module will really help. There's also the leadership and communication module, which I highly recommend, and exploring your career potential. That's a really great module for you as well. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the session. We've got our email address on the screen, hdr.intern@qut.edu.au. You're very welcome to email myself or Simon at any time with any questions that you have, if we can help in any way. If you haven't already done so, we'd also love for you to enter your student ID number into the chat box. And now we will open to any questions. So I'm just going to have a quick look through the chat to see if there's any questions come through that I might have missed. And no, that's all good. And we've still got Komol online as well. So if you have any questions for him about his internship experience, you're very welcome to either turn your camera and your mic on and ask the question, or you are also welcome to submit your question into the chat box now.
Okay. I think. Okay. I better say something. I mean, yeah. So I want to give a short message as well. I think it's about especially for the international students. So especially for the international students who are staying here with masters or PhD or bachelor, I don't know. And I think HDR is, I think, masters and PhD. So for them, actually, internship is also very important. So one big challenge for us, the international students, is the language barrier, number one. Number two is understanding the emotions of different language people. So that two things is very important to learn. And industry engagement opportunity and internship is one of the great opportunity to get these skills. Most importantly, like when a manager of a company or an organization try to hire an employee, most importantly, they focus that employee, can he have a very good relation, or can he do a job, do the job in our company in a way like everyone in our company can understand him, and he is also well interacting with everyone. So that is important for us as well, to prepare the skills so that we can understand the industry environment, we can understand the people in industry level and communicate, and we communicate well, understand their emotions, and break the language barrier as well. So that was one message from my side, like for the international students as well, because most of us try to get a job and we find we have very good technical skills. Our CV is really rich, and also we are trying several interviews one after another, and then we find like still sometimes we are not getting successful, because it's also like about the cultural issue. Like international students have different country and they have different culture of their job environment. But here, job environment culture is a bit different, I will say, especially from my country, and this country is quite different. Here, people are much more interacting, much more well communicating, and rather than focusing on the tasks too deep, they try to understand the task, everyone, and solve it together, and well communication. So there is two questions, I think, like.
Yeah, it's a great point though, Komol. Thank you for that. So we've got a question. Will QT be able to find a suitable academic mentor, as my supervisor is not expert in all the skills required by the internship position? Yes, absolutely. We've never had an internship that we've never been able to find an academic mentor for. So generally, once we have Well, if we have an industry partner that comes to us with a project, we actually find an academic mentor for the internship before we advertise the internship. And then the student can say, oh, I would prefer my supervisor, or I can, use this one that we found. So yes, we definitely will. And then if you're self-sourcing your own internship, that's also fine. Once you're at that stage where the industry partner is wanting to formalize the internship agreement, we can do a call out to academics who have relevant expertise, and we'll be able to line you up with an academic mentor. But great question. And then there's a question, registering for HDR industry engagement for a PhD student should happen after 9 months from the start. I would actually register 6 months. So once you've completed 6 months of your of full-time equivalent of your degree, and you've completed stage 2, you're eligible to undertake an internship. But you're actually really, it's a good question, because you're actually really welcome to register for the program at any stage and keep your eye on the emails. And then obviously when you apply for an internship, you just need to make sure that you meet that eligibility criteria of having completed stage 2, and also having completed 6 months full-time equivalent of your degree. Kamal, you've got a...
Yeah.
Yep.
I was about to say, like, I think so far I saw in the rules, I think for PhD, it is 3 months after submitting the stage 2. And for the master's, I think it is 6 months, I think, if you don't mind. That internship, I mean, after submitting the stage 2, in PhD, we submit the stage 2 in 3 months. So after we submit the stage 2 in 3 months, then we can start the internship.
Yeah.
In PhD. And for master's, I think it is 6 months.
And then we've got another question, which is, can internships take place in other cities or states? Yes, absolutely. So thanks to the pandemic, we have a lot of students that do remote online internships with industry partners, both at interstate organizations and also international organizations as well. So we had one student late last year who was doing their internship with a company in Germany. So it was a little bit challenging with the time zone, because his work days ended up being split in 2, where he would come online early in the morning and then he'd be back online in the afternoon to sort of catch the company when they were on their time zone. But yes, it can absolutely be done. Or if it's not a remote internship at an interstate or international, we've also had students travel interstate or internationally for internships as well. And did we have any other questions that people want to put in the chat, or any other questions for Kamal? I think it's such a great experience to have him here. Does the supervisor have to agree, sign off on the internship? What if they do not think it's a good fit, or if they would prefer for a student to concentrate on the PhD only? Charlotte, this is the $1 million question that you've asked. So there are a number of PhD supervisors who will always say, just focus on your PhD. And it's not really my place to say whether they're right or wrong. So I'm not going to say that. But I will say that as we've discussed earlier in the session, your PhD, and I think as Kamal has demonstrated it as well in his discussion too, is that the PhD is not just about getting the PhD, but it's about the skills and your development as well. And so undertaking an internship is a really great way to broaden that development. We can always get our GRED director, who is a professor and he is a PhD supervisor, to have a chat with your supervisor as well, if they think it's not a good idea. They don't have to sign off on the internship, no. If they think it's not a good fit, I would be very interested in talking to them about their reasons about thinking why that is for you. but in my experience, it's really quite rare. I've found most supervisors very encouraging. I came into this role from the creative industries faculty, and I remember I had a number of academics reach out to me, and they said, you know, if you're running it, sign me up. I don't actually care what you're doing. If you're managing the program, I'm on board. So so I think the way that the program is run, that we really do, we pause your candidature, we pause your scholarship, there's funding from the industry partner. It's set up really well. We try and look after you really beautifully through the internship experience, and it's only going to broaden you more as an individual. What would you say to that question, Kamal?
Yeah, thank you for asking me. For my case, I will say my supervisor was very frank and open-minded in that case. Like when I said to him, like, because for me it was like right after 3 months, like I was about to finish my stage 2 and I submit my stage 2 and I joined the internship program. So before I finished the stage 2, I already got the information about the internship opportunity, and I already needed to apply actually before finishing stage 2. So I discussed with Will. I think like my supervisor, Professor Will Brown. So, and he was very open-minded, and I said I want to join that internship position. I want to start that internship position. So he first asked, he was very happy. I could understand and agreeable, but he asked me like, what is your justification? Why you want to join that internship position? Why this one? You need to explain and you need to convince me. He directly told me that. And yes, I explained in a very good way, saying, yes, this internship is related to machine learning. It's quite rare to find a good internship, especially related to my field on machine learning. And it's quite in Brisbane. And I said like NISQ and Maze both are well recognized, especially in Brisbane, and they are also government organizations. And also he asked, okay, I understand that they are very good organizations. So what's the benefit? What will you learn so that I can let you go leaving the PhD for 3 months? And what will you learn other than machine learning? Okay, you have one specific part is technical, but what is the other benefit? So I said, yes, first thing, as an international student, as I also mentioned, I need to develop my communication skills. That is really important. Also, develop good link and communications with with different level of people and professionals, and also understanding how to solve a problem in a good curriculum. When we do an internship, we have 3 months fixed, and that's why I said like we need to have a good mind map, and we understand the curriculum, how to solve a problem. We have a discipline to solve the curriculum. When we know the discipline from an industry engagement level, a very professional level, and I just joined a PhD program here, so it will really help me in future. Like when I do the PhD after I finish my intern, I already know how to work with a very good professional curriculum. And this will really help me achieving a goal in a long term. And because PhD is a very long-term degree, it's 3 years, and we need a very long breath to complete that degree. And a good discipline and curriculum, if we just get it at the very beginning, is really helpful for us as well. So these are the thing I said also to convince my supervisor as well. And he was really happy. I think I had 4 supervisors, all of them were happy when they see that. Yeah.
And they reached out and had a couple of questions for me as well, about the sort of pausing of candidature and things like that. So supervisors are also really welcome to email myself or Simon, and we'll help in any way that we can. Thanks to Bassam. Good feedback that it was helpful response from Kamal, definitely. So we're at the end of the workshop now. If you have any last minute questions, pop them in the chat now, or if you think of something later, you're very welcome to email me at hdr.intern@qut.edu.au. But thank you so much for everyone coming along to the session today. I hope you found it really valuable. And I think having Komol here, and thank you so much for coming along and sharing your experience and your words of wisdom in helping your supervisors understand the benefits of internships. I think it's so helpful to have, you know, a first-hand student experience in these workshops. So I hope everyone's found the session valuable. Feel free to email any questions, and thank you so much. And I look forward to helping you all with your internships in the future.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Susan, for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you.